Look at this thing. Let's go! I got it to fire up and it is running pretty decent, honestly. Welcome back to another episode of Mini Metal Fab, everyone. Today we're working on the Kraken some more. We just retimed the engine last night because it was out of time, and we put it back in. I put the dual carbs back on, so I'm gonna try to fire it up again and see if it'll run. If not, we're going to pick up a new 500 today, and we're gonna be putting that in instead. The intake was off by one tooth, and so is the exhaust cam. So now I retimed it, got everything hooked back up. I'm not hooking up any cooling or anything because if it doesn't run, if it's just shooting fireballs again, then you already know it's coming back apart. So no point in hooking up cooling and filling it with coolant if it's just gotta come back apart. Once we know this thing will run and run right and not make ticking sounds and stuff, that's when we'll go and do the coolant. All right, so let's try to crank this thing, see what happens. It's still running 35 pilot, 115 main jets in both carburetors. So it might be too rich, might be too lean, I don't know. Because I haven't really fired up on these yet. So let's just see what happens. Maybe he's choke. I don't think it's gonna do it. Ugh. Yeah, looks like we're buying a new engine. So I'm gonna tear it all back apart again. At least there's not much, just the clutch cable, engine mounts, and the shifter and the exhaust. So, and the carbs, but it shouldn't be too bad. In last episode, we all saw it blow up. It jumped time. It toasted the top end. It wouldn't run anymore. It stretched the timing chain. So it needs a new timing chain. So we're not going to be running that engine anymore because it's actually cheaper to buy a whole new bike with the engine and everything than it was to buy the timing chain and all the gaskets we would need to rebuild it. So that is exactly what I did. I picked up this engine here for $260. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pull these valve covers off and check over timing and take our spark plugs out and switch the plugs because that has brand new plugs in it as well. And I want brand new plugs in this one. And then we'll be able to check timing and check our valve clearances and set our tension with our tensioner as well because that's not set yet. So I got it all apart. I'm going to be checking timing now. So I got to rotate it around and get it into top dead center. I got to take the plugs out too, so it stays in top dead center. I just put some WD-40 down our cylinders just to help lubricate them since it hasn't been ran in a while. But everything in the top end looks really good. Got the covers off, so we're gonna rotate it to top dead center now. See if timing's right. Our engine was in time, and I made the mistake of turning it over without enough tension on the tensioner, and it made the exhaust cam jump a tooth. So now I gotta take the exhaust cam off and retime it. But it is what it is, not that big of a deal. Engine is retimed, looking good. Timing's mint. So now we're gonna check our valve clearances. And the intake on this side is definitely tight, there's zero play. And then the exhaust there's a little bit of play, but it could probably be a little bit more play. So we're gonna do that, and then we'll do the other side here. And put our valve cover on and our spark plugs in, and this thing will be ready to go into our frame tomorrow. I got it all apart. Everything is in pieces now. The front end's completely apart, and the wiring is all in. I removed our battery box though because I need to move it back so I can fit air filters on our dual carbs because I'm going back to the dual carb because I want it to run on the dual carb, not the single. And I tried to make the wiring a little neater than it was. Kind of succeeded. It's just so hard with this. This is all hidden by the gas tank, so this is fine. But this is just out in the open, and there's nothing I can really do about this. It will be getting a shock in here, and then we'll have air filters and a carburetor, so that will help fill it in and hopefully hide some of it, because I don't like that wiring there. It looks so ugly. But yeah, I have to pull the whole rear end apart as well so I can do the rear brake rotor. I'm putting a bigger one on, so I gotta cut that tab off, make a new bracket for a brake and all that stuff. Gotta make new linkage for this because this is going backwards with the battery box. There's a lot we gotta do tomorrow. The forks. It's gonna be a long day, but we're gonna grind and hopefully we can get this thing, hopefully to a runner if we can get spark. If not, Saturday we are going to get the CDI, and then hopefully that will give us spark. But hopefully at least we'll get it back together and completed tomorrow, and with brakes and new front end. So a lot of progress, but a long way to go still.
Yay.
Yeah. I got our front triple tree welded up at my shop yesterday and trimmed up. All I did was cut these to fit this at a certain distance on each side. So that way our forks are a little bit wider and it should be nice and even and level. I had it all clamped down to a fixture I made. And now we got a similar setup here at home for the top. So we got this clamped down, and then this guy's clamped down. This is what we're using for shims to keep it a certain height on this. And then I'm gonna tack it in place and then tack the other one in, and then we can weld them up. Got it all welded. Looks really good. So now I gotta let it cool down, and we can start reassembling our head tube. Gotta re-grease it, put it back together, put our bars on, install new forks, and install our wheels. So I gotta DB this tire while I let this cool, because this is the front wheel we're gonna use. I'm gonna clean it up too, but it's getting this tire. So I gotta take that one off and replace the valve stem so we can get a new one in.
Well, we're having trouble seating the bead, so have to switch to alternative methods. Gonna try the flame technique.
So what do I have to do?
Spray a little bit, not too much.
Around the whole bead?
Yeah.
And then just lay it on fire? Or what?
Yep.
Dude, it worked! Oh boy, pump it up, pump it up. Let's go! That was fire!
Perfect.
Yeah, it worked perfect!
Bet you're
Ratchet
dead.
strap plus fire equals bead seated.
You think that made your dad nervous?
Probably.
But look, it's perfect.
Yeah!
We already had to mount one of these like style tires before, and that was a chore.
Mint! So now that the tire's mounted, we're gonna install our triple tree. So we have to grease up our headset bearings. We got 2 of them here. You wanna pack them full of grease. You just wanna scoop a bunch up on your finger and then shove it in through this top groove here all the way around. And since it can't on the top one, we're gonna have to do it through the sides and this side on this one, since this one's pressed onto here. So after you get both your bearings packed, you set the top one in the top, bottom one's on here. You slide this guy up through the center here, straight up and in like this. And then you have a top nut and a cap that goes down on top of this bearing. So there's the top cap that keeps the dirt out, and there's the nut. And you want to tighten this down till you have resistance, because when you're going high speeds, especially off-road, when you don't have a steering dampener, you want to have resistance. If this is too loose, it's going to flop around. You're going to start getting speed wobbles. It's going to feel really uncontrollable. So if you tighten this down really tight, so it actually takes force to move it, you'll get a lot better feedback while riding fast, and it'll handle a lot better at high speeds. And you can use your hips and your waist and your legs to hold the bike and help you dip and turn the whole rear end of the bike a lot better than if it's loose. You don't get the same results. So I recommend doing that on dirt bikes, pit bikes, mini bikes, all of it. It helps a lot. Even if you're just riding street, it'll help you not get speed wobbles on the road too. Then you can get your top plate. with your top nut, add a little bit of Loctite to them, and put them on. The new forks are on. Look at that. We switched them out for the ones on our mini bike to lower our mini dirt bike because that was a bit too high off the ground anyways. And we raised the front of this. So now we can do the rear suspension after I bolt up our dashboard and our fender. But really cool thing here, we got a working speedometer on our mini bike now. Here's our speedometer cable, right? This is our speedometer tracking unit, and this guy right here spins with the wheel, see? And that picks up our speed and sends it to the dashboard. And since it's all the same geometry as the OEM bike was, and the wheel size is very, very similar, our speed is actually going to be pretty accurate to the real miles per hour. So when it shows you're going 20, you're probably going like 19 to 21 miles an hour in real life, which is solid. So we're going to put this all together and see what the front end looks like. And then we can start work on the rear end. Front end is complete. Look at this thing. That looks incredible. Got the dashboard hooked up again. And now our speedometer should work as well. We got our speedometer cable on. It runs up from our tracker, spins around, and goes up into the dashboard right there like that. So next up, we're working on the rear end now. We gotta do a new hub for a brake rotor, and we have to cut out the shock tabs on the top and bottom for our shock, because we're gonna be installing a new shock, as well as take off the chain, because we are going to be installing a chain slider underneath it, right on top here so we don't wear through our swing arm. So there's a lot to undo on the rear. It involves a lot of work. Have to loosen a lot of locking collars, a lot of set screws, and take out a lot of keys. So we'll come back when this thing's fully apart and cut apart as well. I got everything cut apart and ground down. That doesn't need to be any more ground down because it's going to get re-welded in. But this one's all ground down. And the new one's going to be getting a bar welded in up here somewhere in this vicinity. I don't know yet exactly where, but somewhere up there. So I'm going to reinstall our whole back rear end with the axle and the wheel and everything. So that way we can figure out our ride height, because this is how high I want the engine to be. So I gotta get the wheel at the right height for mounting the shock up. We got the rear suspension mocked up. We got the bottom tabs welded in. When we're working on our top tabs, the shock's gonna sit something like that right in there. And the top tabs are gonna go from our top bar there over to the shock there. And then we'll have rear suspension again. This thing's coming out really, really good. It's much, much higher off the ground. It's like the perfect height now. Long travel suspension looks sick. We got the top tabs cut and welded and bolted and drilled up. Now all I gotta do is pick it up like this, nice and straight, and I can give it a good tack. So I'm gonna tack it in and we should have rear suspension. Beautiful. We got 450 rear shock in there. A built 450 rear shock at that. It's not even a stock rear 450 shock. Alright, give me a couple more tacks. I just hope our spring rate is close to what we need. Beautiful. All right, so let's put it on the ground now. And what's nice is, if it's soft, we can go stiffer with it. Brakes everywhere. might be a bit on the soft side, which is all right. It'll go a little stiffer, but that is not bad.
That travels pretty nicely.
Yeah. The only thing is, it hits that. Look, hits the pipe. I'm probably gonna have to cut the pipe out, notch it for the shock. Notch out the pipe. Clear the shock there. See it hitting right in the center there? Look, watch when I pick up. See the gap?
Oh.
Yeah. That's our limiting factor currently.
That's stopping it from going down anymore.
Yeah.
That's also not good.
So I was trying to hook up my new battery and relocate my battery box, and the stupid positive terminal touched the wrong side of the battery and caught the freaking harness on fire. So now, this harness might be toast, which is just great. So I'm going to try wiring the ground, because it caught the ground on fire and burnt the entire ground through the entire harness. And it's one ground that goes to everything in this. So now, I'm going to try to wire the ground back in and see what happens, but it's probably toast. So I got the ground rewired in and everything, and the engine still turns on, and it still cranks over. The dash still lights up and everything fine, but we have no spark, still. On the bright side of not having spark, I got the rear suspension pretty dialed. So now, it's hard to do one-handed, but it's pretty perfect. So that's good. And we got our brake caliper and master cylinder and rotor all mounted up. So now I gotta run some linkage, some new linkage from here to there, as well as install our dual throttle cables again, because we're not gonna be running single carb anymore. All right, so I just did some major research on this thing, and I was looking into wiring diagrams and the wiring of the keys and the ignitions, and apparently Gen 1 and Gen 2 don't use the same key wiring. The Gen 1s have no anti-theft feature. Gen 2s do. And because of that, the wiring in the key is different, and it has a resistor in it. And the middle wire here, which this gray one right here, has to receive exactly a certain amount from the key in order to turn the CDI on. And because I'm using a Gen 1 key on a Gen 2 harness, it's not receiving that power, because the wire that goes to that from the Gen 1 key is actually for the brake lights on the Gen 1 key, not to turn the spark system on, or your ignition and spark. So I found a form online that explains how to wire a Gen 1 key for a Gen 2 harness. So I'm going to have to buy that resistor and then attempt to wire it, and hopefully that will finally give us spark. Because there is no turning back now. After I do this wiring, it is done. This key will no longer work for a Gen 1 harness. You have to take this brown and yellow wire, because this yellow wire is the one that leads to that gray wire on the Gen 2 harness. You have to cut the yellow wire at the top and splice in a resistor going from the yellow wire to the brown wire. So that way the brown wire powers this yellow wire, but only at a precise voltage and amperage. So that way it turns the computer on. So that is what we're going to do. And I'll let you know what size resistor you need if anyone else wants to do this. I'll probably link them in the description, because I'm going to look for them on Amazon, because I don't think any stores around me will sell that. Because it's a really, really tiny resistor. Like, it is small. It's like this big. So we're going to have to do that. And then, yeah, hopefully that will be our saving grace, and we'll have sparks so we can fire this thing up finally. Next up, I have to put the exhaust on and make sure it's going to clear our brake master cylinder and our lines, because I completely forgot about the exhaust and didn't think that through whatsoever. So I don't know. I might have to relocate those, which isn't great because there's not really anywhere else it can go. It's like it's tight. You know, there's nothing, there's no room. Like, look at the clearances we have for the shock. It's ridiculous. This is going to be our chain slider right here. It's from a SSR 125 chain slider. I just cut it apart and drilled out 2 holes in it and countersunk them. And I marked them out on the frame right here. So I'm going to center punch them and drill them out and then tap them. So that way I can thread these 2 Phillips heads in and they'll sit flush with the top of this. So that way the chain won't catch on it. This is the resistor you need to get right here. It's a 100 ohm, 1/4 watt resistor. And that is what will allow the key to deactivate the anti-theft system. And then you wire it in like this. You want to delete the yellow wire from the top there and then tap into the brown. And then that is what is going to give you spark, hopefully. And this should deactivate it. I got the key wired up fully and put back on, plugged in. So it's time for the moment of truth. Will we finally have spark? Let's turn it on. Engine's already on. So let's see. Come on in here, Russell, and let's see if we have anything finally. Yes! We have spark!
Took long enough.
Yes! That is amazing.
Now, do we want to check the other cylinder or are we just gonna run with it?
Yeah, we should check the other cylinder. All right, so Russell got this out. We're ready to test for spark. Let's see if we have anything on this side. Oh, beautiful spark.
That's what we want.
That is good. Yes. All right, let's put it in. Add some fuel and the cooling system, and then try to fire this thing up.
Close, not quite there.
Yeah, needs coolant. I just got the chain slider bolted on. I tapped the tubing here, and now all I gotta do is hit it with the heat gun to heat this up so I can hold it down and mold it to the roundness of the pipe. And then let it harden up like that, and it'll be perfect, and put a rear chain on. Then we gotta cut off our tensioner underneath here, that guy right there, for that chain, and run our chain, and I'm probably at a 1/2 link, and hopefully take out 2 links, and then we don't need a tensioner. That's the goal. But we have to test things. We might have to add a tensioner back in. We'll have to see. But that chain's too loose, so I gotta do something about that. We also got the radiators on and full of coolant. So, cooling system's hooked up. After I'm done with the chains, I gotta do my front shocks and front brakes. And then we can see if we can fire this thing up and tune the carburetors and take it for a test ride. Finally. We gotta burp the oil system because there's an air bubble in it. So we'll have to do that too once we get the fire up. Got all of our chains on with our slider. Good tension. Yeah, it looks good. Brakes are all hooked up on the rear. Russell welded this up for us yesterday. Linkage. That works good. Got spark now. Fuel line's hooked up to our carburetors. Gotta put some gas in it and start cranking it and see if it fires up. The jetting is as lean as possible for both carburetors. It's the smallest jets I have in both pilot and main. So it might not fire up, it might need more fuel. But we will find out tomorrow because it is too late to try tonight. But just look at how jam-packed underneath the seat is. Between the shock, the battery, CDI, and the rectifier. And then you got the carbs right behind it with the air filters. Plus all the wiring down in the bottom there. There is no room for anything else. But it fits pretty dang good. We packed it in there very nicely. The seat just hides it all so well when you put that on there. It makes it look like none of it's even there. It's just like, oh, it's just your average full suspension 500cc mini bike, you know? But no, there's a lot that goes underneath that thing. A lot. We were back working on the Kraken some more today. And It is so close to being able to be tried to fire up. All I have to do now is install our front brakes and fill it up with gas, and we can crank it over and see if it'll run. So for this side, I have bolt hole there and here that are going to have to come to a bracket from here and here. So I'm going to have to figure out some way to make that happen. I got it all on both sides. This one's fully on and got the reinforcement in. This side still needs the reinforcement. I'm gonna do that tomorrow. And I gotta bleed them because I had to crack the lines to be able to get them into the position I wanted, and that let a little bit of air in. So I'm just gonna bleed it out just to make sure that it's good. And we just gotta bed them into the rotors real good. So tomorrow we're gonna try to fire this thing up finally and try to tune it for the dual carbs. So we'll stay tuned for that, and then we can give this thing a test ride, and hopefully it'll rip. I got the chokes on, turn on our key, engine. Let's see what happens. Let's go! I got it to fire up, and it is running pretty decent, honestly. It revs, it idles. No, well, kinda. I need to turn up the idle still. But if it revs, it sounds pretty good. Oh, dude, I'm so hyped. We gotta zip tie up our harness now, and turn up our idle a bit, and then we can put our seal on and take it for a test ride and see how it is. And tune our carburetor some more. I am so excited. All right, let's fire it up for the video here. Keys already on. All right, so I tuned the carbs a bit. We got the idle and rev out decent. It needs a bit more, but I'll fire it up and rev it for you guys a bit. And then we're gonna give it a quick test ride before it gets too late. And then we'll have to tune the carbs some more tomorrow when we have daylight and it's not past revving curfew for us. So engine on, key on. Just fired it up, gonna let it warm up, and then we'll get some riding clips.
That thing is insane.
This thing freaking rips. That was only second gear, and I was doing 40 miles an hour coming down the hill, right down here through the straightaway here. That's pretty fast for that short a room, you know? And that's just like not even trying to like shift it and go faster. Like I was letting out of it and just rolling to a stop, like easing on the brakes and stuff. This thing is wild. It is insane. Needs a little bit of tweaking still. Tune the carbs a bit more. As you saw, it's backfiring. I think it's running a bit lean in the mid-range. I think I gotta put my needle back to the center. And yeah, I gotta get my tire pressures right and keep bedding the brakes in. The chains seem to be holding up great. No chunking, nothing like that. The rear end gets a little swirly. I gotta adjust the rear dampening and rebound. I think it needs to be a little bit stiffer. It's a little too soft. It sends too much weight backwards too fast. So it gets the rear end a little swirly when you let out of the gas real hard and brake real hard at the same time, which isn't the end of the world, you know. It's not. It's like nothing. It's nothing that's uncontrollable. So, yeah.
I still think this one revs up and revs out a lot healthier than the last engine.
Definitely. It's way smoother, way faster.
I think it's sounding like what it's supposed to.
Yeah. It's super close to being perfect now. This is good. As you can see, just like, look at how good this thing looks. Oh, another thing is I need to turn the bars back. They're too far forward. I can't comfortably hold them without pushing myself against the expansion chamber for the radiator and the gas tank. So I'd like to angle them backwards a little bit to match the angle of the forks probably. And then that will be perfect. And that will also help me get into a better seating position and be able to shift and brake and everything a little bit better. But this thing is gnarly. I love this thing. It looks so good and it rides so nice. The new suspension feels amazing. I can't wait to try this out at Busco, where I can try more in second gear. And first gear is torquey. It's got some torque. Gearing's pretty spot on, honestly. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned for the next video where we do some more ripping and hopefully get this thing out into the more open space and get to full send it. So stay tuned for the full send of this thing. It's going to be coming soon. Next up, we got the quad. And then that will be getting a full send as well. So we hope you enjoyed this build series. It's almost finished. And it'll still be getting paint and everything. There's, you know, this build's never going to be fully done. I'm sure there's going to be other things I'm going to upgrade in the future and make better and finalize and stuff. But for now, it's at least ready for Busco and Mini Mayhem. So like, comment, subscribe, and God bless.